I've been a recap channel for about a year now, and during that time and some time before it, I've spent many hours, or sometimes only minutes, looking for stories to read. And I've been semi-successful, with some popping up due to Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, or YouTube videos recommending a genre. Some I've stumbled across myself while going through manga decks, and others were popped up and recommended in original Japanese by other authors that I've been following. But some of the stories that I've found and have been holding on to are just ones that I don't know if I'll be able to cover, whether it be copyright reasons, for length reasons, or sometimes just time constraints, as I do work a full-time job, take care of pets, and try to have at least a little bit of a life. But with that aside, I've decided that I'd like to share some of the ones that I've been kind of sitting on, which some of you may know, some of you may not, and some of you might turn your nose up and say that it's trash, which, to each their own. But I'd like to share three of them, and I'd like to stick with a theme, making, a mood easier to find if you're thinking of, for example, looking for a harem or a fantasy adventure or just wholesome romance. At least I can perhaps have a video of three options that you can give a watch and possibly find a nice one to spend some time on, or possibly even find a new favorite. But I thought, at least for this one, due to the recent finality of one of the stories, I thought I would cover Monster Girls, with specifically covering three ones that I've been kind of having my eye on, but never really getting around to doing much with, or not even reading too much of it myself, as I'm a bit too busy often. For those stories, well, keep watching and you'll find out what they are, and, well, hopefully you enjoy them. And if you do, I wouldn't mind a like, comment, and subscribe, or even just a comment saying that, the picks were good. So, anyway, let's get into this. Garuru Girl by Hara Satoshi is a kind of comedy, slice of life, bit of Monster Girl, and supernatural. But what's not really mentioned is there is some mystery still kind of thrown around, that every time you solve one, another one pops up, which is quite entertaining, as you're not left hanging on for too long to figure out things, though some of the bigger mysteries do kind of linger. Now, I'd recommend this one as it follows a childhood friend and being reunited. So, our main character is Mochizuki. He's a normal boy, by the seams of it, and he's reunited with his childhood friend, Kawa-chan, who also seemed normal, but we're immediately broken to that illusion as we're shown that she's a wolf girl, which seems to be spurred on by the scent of Mochizuki, which Mochizuki, it seems to be, it's his blood or something along those lines kind of drive her wild. So from there, we follow kind of the mishaps and clumsy attempts of romance as these two kind of fumble their way through of being able to stay together, as if Kawa-chan gets her secret revealed, well, she can't stay at the school any longer. And now that the pair are reunited, they don't want that to be over. I would recommend this story, and especially since just recently it got cancelled. So the author ended up finishing the story rather quick, chopping through as many kind of the arcs as they were planning in just a few chapters. And as much as the ending has its own bit of satisfaction, there's still times that you'd kind of want more, and it's fairly disappointing, and not the story, but just that it got axed. I'd definitely recommend giving it a read, and giving it some love, as Garuru Girl is one of those ones that kind of give you nostalgia. It's a bit of a classic, but unfortunately this classic has come to an end a bit too early, but I'd recommend a read all the same. The next one I'd like to recommend is Sirens Won't Sing For You by Agasa Reiji. Now, this one, luckily enough, is ongoing still, and it seems to be getting a weekly kind of update. And that is from the official publisher as well, so it's getting officially translated, and it is weekly translations. So, for this one, actually, unlike Garuru Girl, I've not really read too much of this. I started it, and I found that it was rather long, as the first chapter was 60 pages. But with those first two chapters, I found that it was interesting enough that I was thinking of covering it, as I found this one when I was kind of just stumbling my way through monster stories for March. But with this, I would recommend it, as from what I've seen so far, it's got that nice kind of still slice of life, yet there's still monsters around. There's still that romance and kind of that classic wholesomeness from what I've seen so far. And it's got some nice twists that, kind of pop up here and there. It follows Toa, and she's a descendant of a siren, and it's also following her classmate Kei. Well, he's more around, but obviously Toa has fallen for Kei, and as she wants to be in love with him, she has to restrain herself, as sirens in this universe have not so nice trait of wanting to eat the ones they love. So I would recommend this story, especially if you want something that's going to be ongoing. The only thing I've noticed, and perhaps it could be an issue for some people, is due to the story being on Manga Plus, they've released the first 6 chapters for free, but from chapter 7 until 26, 27, you have to download the app to read the rest. Now, 27 to 29 are currently free and available, but who knows for how long, as I have a feeling that chapters are going to start being put behind things. So it is a possible risk when reading it, but if you're willing to look around, I'm sure you'll find another place that might have it with more ads but less possibilities of paying anything. So if you're looking for something that's ongoing, bit of monster and definitely romance, well, I'd recommend Sirens Won't Sing for You. The last one I'd like to talk about is Dogmatic by Tsunamasa. With this one, it's definitely on the other end of what I normally cover or would normally read. However, I found the concept and the art appealing enough that I gave it a shot, and I don't particularly regret it. It's not romance. There's only slight comedy to kind of help the peaks of gore and horror kind of stand a bit taller, as there's a bit of a dip with the comedy kind of breaking everything. Though perhaps, and from what I've seen in both the other languages and in English, the serialized version does have a bit more lightheartedness to it than the original one-shot. Now, if you only speak English, there's the one-shot, there's chapter 1, which is the one-shot, and now chapter 2, well, from 3 months ago. But if you speak other languages, which I believe Vietnamese has up to chapter 7, well, you're a bit more in luck. It's definitely one I'd recommend, as it puts humans on the bottom of the totem pole, so to speak, and people that have developed into these anthropomorphic beings, well, they did that to survive from years and years of just kind of progressively getting themselves stronger or to survive diseases. And now most people look closer to furries than to humans, and it's not the anime style. It's more of your standard furry. Now, with this story, I would say it's definitely more fighting, drama, and just trying to survive the situation rather than a light-hearted romp like an Isekai. I would still recommend it, and I hope there is more translations in English before I have to go and do it myself, but it's one that I would recommend, and for good reasons, as it's well thought out, it's well put together, and honestly, I enjoyed it despite it not being my usual cup of tea. But if you're looking for something that's a change of pace and definitely something that's more on the edge of your seat, well, I'd recommend Dogmatic. And those are three stories that I'd love to cover, but I don't think I'll get a chance to. And I'd recommend giving them each a read in their own way. And if I might throw in my own bonus, the original Rosario Vampire, as many people will go, yes, they've seen the anime, the manga doesn't follow the same path, as it changes from about chapter 10, and instead of it being, you know, Skune being this weak kind of boy, when Mocha bites him, he actually like takes on the form of a vampire from time to time and fights back, and it becomes much more of a brawler than a kind of classic harem trope anime from the early 2000s. And I would give it a recommend, as I found it so enjoyable. I went and found the manga books for the chapters I quite enjoyed, which was, well, I don't want to spoil it, but it resulted in Skune having to fight everyone, and it was quite the twist. There's definitely a lot more content with that one, and there's 2 full seasons, each with around 40 chapters, so I would give that one a read if you want something that's a bit more old school. But I hope you enjoy these choices, and, well, I hope you enjoy my choice of trying to recommend them, as I don't normally do this, and I also normally don't go scriptless, as I thought I'd give it a shot. So I just hope you like what I found, and if you're interested in hearing more of the kind of finds, or would like to kind of recommend a genre for me to kind of show what I found, well, just leave a comment or let me know. If you found something else that's worth a read in my spare time, and maybe not just to cover, well, throw them in the comments as well, as I'll be having a look, and honestly, you can never have too many recommendations. So I hope you enjoyed this. Apologies for some sloppiness, as I haven't really gone scriptless before. And yeah, I hope you have a good time and enjoy.